Hello, hello. Welcome to the InScope podcast. My name is John Scott. I'm the CEO and co-founder over at ScopeStack, a solution to automate your IT services entire world, right? Welcome. I have a friend here named Brook Lee from Eureka Process. Brook and I met each other a couple years ago and started talking about scoping process and been talking about it ever since. So, Brook, thank you for joining us on the InScope podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So, Eureka Process, I think I heard about it just because it had a unique starting point, a unique story. And I talked to Alan, and you and I got in touch with each other. And I enjoy talking to people that truly get really the world that we came from, the problem that we were trying to solve. And so, you talk to MSPs all the time, right? And talking about consulting and how to build a better MSP. It's a wild world out there, isn't it?
It's the Wild West a lot from coast to coast. So we do a lot of consulting from a very high level strategy standpoint, all the way down to basic processes.
Cool.
So from, we're going to have your quarterly, your yearly, your 1-3-5 plan, how to get things, financially structure people, all those things, all the way down to the very basic processes on, for example, scoping and projects and all that kind of stuff. So we run the gamut from start to finish on how to help those MSPs kind of get all their stuff in alignment so that they can get to that next level or make that next step that they want to make.
And that's awesome. And y'all do a great job of it. I've seen it.
Thank you.
One thing that I wanted to pick your brain about, because, we talk to MSPs all over the world at this point, which is pretty amazing. And
that is cool.
Yeah, it's really cool considering, we built software here in Greenville, South Carolina, and we have people in Australia, Tasmania, like places I've never been to. But my wife keeps saying that we need to go there and visit them, which I completely agree. So
it sounds like Alan. We have a client in New Zealand, and he's like, can I go do my on-site there? And I'm like, nope.
You cannot.
No, we cannot.
When we invent a time machine, you can go.
Yes, then you can.
No, so one thing that I always run into, not always, but more times than not, I run into are engineers that left a larger organization. They're starting an MSP, right? And they are essentially the owner of this MSP, and they're building this business, doing great things. However, I constantly find owners continue to be involved in the scoping process, right? And I don't know if that's something you see all the time or what, but I really want to kind of pick that apart. Like, why do they feel like they have to do that? And then how can they get away from it? And we'll just kind of jam on that for a minute. And then a couple other things I want to talk to you about as well. But is that something that you see?
I do see that a lot, where the owner is a very integral part of the business all the way down to the scoping, which theoretically the scoping it's just like one of the gears within the business.
Right.
And when you first start out, it's agreed it's a guy or girl that was an engineer somewhere else. They're like, you know what, I want to do this differently. I want to do something better. I want to make changes. So they start their own business. And in the beginning, you have to do those things because you're wearing so many different hats as the owner.
Right.
I mean, sometimes you're doing the heavy lifting and the scoping and the sales and. But as you grow and mature, in order to be able to get you to where you want to be, you've got to rely much more heavily on documentation. And scoping is nothing more than documentation. It is documenting how you do a particular process, and that process is a project.
Right.
Whether it's a baby project like one firewall, or whether it's what I call like a big boy project where you're going from 5 servers down to 1 with 7 virtualized, or you're going from 20 servers, you're moving to the cloud, you're going to do a SharePoint migration. There's all these moving parts, so they can be very simple or very complex. But if you're the only person that knows in your head how long it's going to take you to do something and the parts and pieces that it takes to get that done, you will forever be stuck in that role. And you will not be able to scale and grow, because as you get more clients, there are going to be more scopes that are going to have to be done, more of that process that's going to have to be fleshed out. And you can't do it once you get past a certain point. And unless you, want to be on call all the time and you want me to call you on the golf course, or you're on vacation with your family because I need a scope done because I've got a client that really wants me to, get something out to them today or in the next, 48 hours, we need to get this stuff documented. Yes, sir.
And these owners are, they are typically the they've done this work before, right? Like
Absolutely.
they are the
Super
technical one.
intelligent
And,
people. Absolutely.
and there's a point where, yes, you're wearing multiple hats, and this is not something that you can just fix overnight, right? But I think you need to start with documentation.
You have to write it down. You've got to write it down, and just don't wait for it to be perfect. And, I'm going to get it next time. Because that's what I hear a lot. Well, I'm going to do the next one, Brooke. I'm going to do it on the next one, Brooke. I'm like, nope, we're going to stop right now. And you're going to tell me, these are the 3 things you've already done. I want you to tell me the next 27 things that you've got to get done. I'm going to write them down. And then we're going to go from there, because they just keep saying they're going to do it on the next one because I'm rushed. I got to get this done. We've got these deadlines. We've got whatever. If you just stay in that cycle, you're literally just running around in a circle, and you're never going to get off of it. So you've got to write this stuff down, even if it's not perfect, and then let the people around you take what you've written down, and then we start, making baby steps. Every single time we do another one of those, it gets a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, and you learn from that, and then you refine that process. The process just needs to start somewhere. Just dump it down on a piece of paper. Give it to me. I'll go from there, and then we'll start refining that as we go along.
Right. Okay. So if it's not the owner, right, who do you recommend as the next best person to start to take that over? Is it sales? Is it project manager? Is it technical engineer?
The scoping process it's very similar to just how your MSP is built. It's a multifaceted process, because the scope should start with whoever is speaking to the client. Somebody came back with an idea from either the client or from a meeting that says, hey, client X is thinking about doing this really cool project. Okay, they brought the idea back. I need you to give me as much information as you have on that meeting. What was the client asking for? Where did they see it? What were they thinking? What challenges do they have? Are they trying to overcome? Is there something that they just feel like they're not doing something, they should be able to do this better, faster than they're doing now? So that's how you got this thing. Give me all that information, because that information is what's going to allow an engineer. I don't like salespeople doing the scopes, not the technical heavy lifting part. That's what's going to allow the engineer to figure out what's the best solution, because what the client asks for and what the best solution is might be 2 very, very different things.
Sure.
And we are the experts for our clients' networks. We know the insides and outs of it. We built it. We took it over. We have it documented. We know all the nuances and the in and outs. And that's what that tier 3 or that senior level person is going to know. They're going to know those nuances. The client says, hey, I want to do this. I want to do everything in the cloud. I want to put everything up in SharePoint. So the engineer, and he comes back and he's like, you know what? I don't think y'all realize, but they have a dedicated server that is nothing but, it's an architecture firm, engineering firm. They've got nothing but documents. They're going to get eaten alive on cost for storage, because they have so much of this there. So maybe we can do, maybe an Azure AD solution to get them in the cloud and some O365, but maybe we want to keep a server or a NAS or something like that for all of these documents and drawings that are so massive in space.
Right.
But without having that conversation with all the different people that interact with this client and their network, next thing you know, sales has sold this, and your engineers that have to do the work, they were like, do you realize how much this is going to cost and how long it's going to take to migrate that data? Because your data is going to be unavailable during the migration. And do you have a bid out? Do you have this that's going on? Some people do bids at certain times of the month. Those are things that all the different people in the room are going to know about. And those are things you have to take into account whenever you're scoping out any type of a project, in my opinion.
Yeah. And you told me you'd offer to drive that up to like Wisconsin data center, right? If they put that on a hard drive and give it to you, Brooke, you drive it for
them? Not in the wintertime. Not in the wintertime, but I might take a bike trip in the summertime. Definitely not in the winter.
No, but again, I think the client they want an outcome, right? I don't think they necessarily care about the nuts and bolts on how that outcome is achieved, right? And so I think it's a great point that, as the managed service provider, you should know, and you should have a great bit of context around what they actually have there, right? And so
our job is to guide them. We are their consultants. You come and tell me you want to do X. If that's not the best solution for you, because I know your network, because I am the expert for it, but I can say this is not really the best solution. However, I do understand what you're saying and some of the things that you're running into. Let's think about this solution instead. It's my job to literally consult with them and say, I know this is what you want, but this is really the best solution for your business. And these are all the way that this particular solution is going to make things better for you. So it's our job to guide and direct our clients, because that's what we're the experts in. They're the experts in whatever their line of business is. We're the experts in their IT and their network and their support. It's our job to guide them where they need to be. So that's why we have to take sort of that big picture look and not just get like this tunnel vision on what they asked for or what the owner has done or whatever. You always want to take a step back. That's why you hire people that are smart to work there. You want to take into account everybody's ideas.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say is like, so it's not really, you want to get out of it being the owner as the main person responsible for, delivering this. Next step down is probably a pretty technical, from what you're saying, it's a consultative kind of technical person that has the ability to
what are your
look
solid
at
senior guys.
Yeah, to look at information and kind of draw some conclusions around the technical side of things. Should we as an MSP start looking at, okay, well, how can we go one tier below that technical person? Because he or she is a billable resource, potentially, more than likely, right? And so if they're not on billable projects, you're not making any money, right? So is there a balance?
Well, maybe not.
Okay.
So scoping.
Do you like how we transitioned into this piece right here? That was good, right?
So scoping, you're going to have templates for certain projects. For example, an O365 migration, you should have a template for that. It should be fairly what I call vanilla bean and easy. You should just be kind of plugging in some numbers. There might be some little ticky-tack one-offs here and there, but O365 migration should be fairly kind of a pay-to-play at any MSP.
Yeah. And you can go to scopestack.io SAL templates and find 50-something of these out there. Word documents, spreadsheets.
Some of those, you should just be able to plug in your numbers and produce that quote and get that over to your client, and you should be able to rock and roll with those like nobody's business all the time.
Yep.
The ones that require a lot of heavy lifting, I like to have the higher level engineers in there because simply, they're the persons that are going to do most of the heavy lifting. Yes, they are a billable resource. Are you making money or not? Not so much. It kind of, let me, an asterisk, it depends. I have changed my thinking on this probably, I would say in the last 3 years in working with a lot of different MSPs that I work with now and consult with on selling the scope. I think you need to sell it as billable. So the client comes to me and, oh my gosh, I had this really great idea. This is the owner. He saw something, was at a conference, whatever, and they want us to figure out a way to make it work. Okay. Let's just say on average, we spend between 3 and 5 hours doing a scope. Your most expensive resource, let's say you bill him out at $1.50 an hour times 5. How much money is that? He could be working tickets on billable tickets, or he's going to be scoping this. The client wants this solution. I'm going to go get it for him. I'm going to sell the scope. You have to pay for my engineer's time to come up with the solution for you guys. So here's the reason why. And this is why. And I was not in this camp about 3 years ago. I was not. I was in we're just giving everything away for free. And there's plenty of people that do that. And it's perfectly fine.
Right.
If your client cannot afford a $500 to $600 scope, they are not going to be able to afford a $7,000 solution. You need to be able to invest this time so that we can come up with the right solution. Now, the clients that I have that sell the scopes, the money goes back into the project. If you agree to we scope it, you're like, yep, okay, this is great. This is what I want to do. We will give you a credit for whatever it is that you've paid for that scope up front. And I'm not saying it's a large percentage, but there are those clients, and we all have them at every single MSP, and they're like, hey, this sounds really great. I want to do this. And then we come back and we tell you, hey, absolutely, we can do this. This is going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing. Here's the price tag. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I don't really want to go to the cloud. I don't really do that. Can you just like order me something off like Amazon, and I'm going to put that box over there, and we're going to save all of our files on it for like $450?
Yeah, no.
That's not what you said you wanted. And now for sure I've lost that time. I mean, that tier 3, that senior guy, I mean, I'm not getting that time back. Right. And we have those clients. They are 100% out there, and anybody that says otherwise, I mean, if you've got rid of your low-hanging fruit, then absolutely. But if you're an MSP that's grown and you still have some of your original clientele that has come on, and maybe they're not under your full stack, and maybe you don't have all MSP, because some people still have some people that are not under what I call the full umbrella. You've got your full MSP guys, but you still have some people that are maybe historically with you. So they're, T&M, time and materials. Right. And you just want to make sure that you're getting your time valued as well. If I go for a consultation at an attorney's office, dude is not seeing me for free. There is a flat fee for me to go in there and talk to that guy and tell him what my problems are and how is he going to help me fix them. It should be the same thinking here at IT firms and MSP firms. You have to value our time, and if you agree to it, and like I said, then we end up doing the project, we'll give you the credit back in so that you don't lose the money.
Well, yeah, because I mean, there's value in taking, again, like we were just talking about, the desired business outcome, like where I want to go as a business, and like interpolating whatever the word is, to go from that to a technical solution. Like that's the valuable piece, right? Like that's the big gap.
That's the expertise that you're paying for, is for you to tell me what it is that you want. And then I've got to use the resources that I have at my MSP to figure out how I'm going to get you from this really cool idea that you have down to we are implementing this project. And now we are doing this stuff. We are turning the wrenches and, moving the gears. And then your solution is going to be rolled out in, the next 4 weeks, and it's going to make it happen. That's a really wide gap to get from the idea to implementation. I mean, and it's hard. It's not easy.
Right. And again, that's where, the smart people come in for sure. And I've seen, the idea of selling the scope, I think when you told me that, I was like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I think organizations have been trying to sell a scope for a long time by either baking in pre-sales as a cost of sales, or they'll actually include, just like they include project management time or documentation time, they'll include pre-sales time into a baked or fixed cost project. But I think what you're saying is kind of one step further, is like you're treating this as potentially like an engagement, right, of a certain extent. Right?
Almost like a billable ticket, I guess, or whatever, however you would want to describe it that way. It's almost just like a T&M type ticket. I mean, you've got to pay for the engineer's time to be able to come up with a solution. And two, you think about it, if you're really doing the scoping process well, it starts with the sales guy. So I've got his time. You've got the engineer that's going to come up with the solution. And then if you're doing it right, you're going to have a little, tay-to-tay, whatever, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. Everybody sits down and we hash this out, and we go over the entire solution, because somebody has to present it to the client. And 90% of the time, it's not going to be your senior guy. It's going to be, your account manager or your VCIO or something like that. So we all got to get on the same page. So when they present this really nice looking scope to the client, that everybody understands what's what. That's a lot of resources in the room that are expensive. These are not cheap people that you have there. So we want to make sure that, again, our time is valued, and that we just don't have these clients coming back with, every time the owner goes off to some conference, he or she comes back and they're like, oh, this really cool thing. And then we go spend, 6 hours fleshing it out, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to do that. That's too expensive. I don't want to spend that money.
Right.
It's same thing.
It's a great way to qualify for sure, who's serious and who's not. I wanted to step back into kind of, documenting the process and documentation that goes into, so that with the intent of getting this off of the owner's shoulders potentially, right? You mentioned asking certain questions in a sales meeting. I was originally thinking, hey, we need to document, the statement of work template, the engineering piece, but I think it's also important, and I want to get your input on, is it important to also document, okay, what are the questions I should be asking on that front end, so that I can come to our technical team with, the right information, right? So like, is it as important to document the front end pre-sales questionnaire, onboarding questionnaire?
Because I think those questions are what also will help us drive an intelligent solution for the client. Hey, they saw this really cool thing at a conference, but what's the problem? What problems are you having? What are you trying to solve? Maybe it's a particular department that's, the software that they have is not working, or they want to be able to do something differently. That whole department wants to go full remote. They've got some software applications. It's on a server. They want to try this, that, and the other. So you want to try to, and that's where the salespeople or the account managers, I'm not saying all the time, they're more people friendly, because you have to pull that information out of your clients. And that's why it's really important to have those regular QBRs, TBRs, whatever it is that you're calling them, because you have to develop that relationship so that they feel comfortable sharing with you the information on what it is that they're trying to change, or what problems they're having, or what did they see, or I heard about this other thing right here. You can't just like show up once a year and think that somebody's going to give you that information, because they're not. So you got to have those regular check-ins with your clients so that they feel comfortable sharing that information. But what's the problem? What's going on? Who's having the issue? And then I always try to go talk to whoever that person is or that department is, and get them to show me what's going on. Hey, tell me what's going on. Okay, the big boss in the big office that writes the checks, the girls in accounting are having a problem. Okay, let me go talk to the team in accounting and sit down at somebody's desk and figure out what's going on, because that's going to help me be able to document to my tier 3 engineer, or whoever that's going to help me with this scope. I went over here, I was in the accounting department. This is what I saw going on with the software. This is kind of what I'm seeing it doing. It doesn't need to be technical because I'm not a technical resource, but let me get that information down because that's when it's going to help the senior person come up with a solution. Any information that I can get for them is going to be helpful. I hear that time and time and time again. Just ask whatever, Brooke. I don't care what you get. Just write it down and bring it back for us. And we have this meeting. Then you can explain anything that doesn't make sense to us as technical people. You know, what are you saying when they said she couldn't do such and such? Oh, well, it was this. Any of that information will help them come up with the best solution for the client. So that's why I like to ask a lot of questions. I like to go sit with the people that are doing the work that we're going to ask these people to change how they work now.
Well, I think that's like that relationship piece is so important, right? Like that's something that, you know, unfortunately, like larger national partners, MSPs can't typically offer is because they're trying to, you know, scale, right? They're trying to do a bunch of things and the MSP is as well. But like right now, like you have an opportunity to invest in that relationship and create a client experience that's going to last a really long time. Right. Like if you go sit down with someone, you know, Sally or whoever in accounting and ask them, okay, what are you experiencing and what problem are you having? Like who else does that? You know what I mean? Like that's huge.
And that's why and this is completely not related to the scope stuff we're talking about. But this is why when I've told people when I've done some interviews and stuff in the last little bit, we've come like full circle on this whole MSP 24/7 thing. 4 or 5 years ago, clients wanted that 24/7 access. They went to these larger companies. They wanted to be able to call up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, right. Fine. Well, in Savannah, Georgia, we're asleep at 3 a.m. So if you call at 3 a.m., you're getting somebody somewhere else in another country that's awake. It's not going to be us. And we've come back to this. The clients that are in our towns, they want that local IT support. And I really think it's because there was nothing good about the pandemic, don't get me wrong, but it's made people realize that we want to be invested in each other as a community. So whatever I can do to help your business work more efficiently and better and be more successful, that's doing nothing but helping my local community. So why would I not want to be invested in that? So that's why I want to make sure we're really giving you a great solution. Even though we're local MSP, we've got some super smart guys and girls here, and we're going to give you the best solution because I want you to succeed. I want your business to do better because that means you're going to be able to help our community. You're going to have more jobs. You're going to be able to grow and expand. And that does nothing but make things better for the own town and community that we stay in.
Right. So to quote you, I think if we can fix the scoping problem, we can make our communities better.
The world is a better place.
The world is a better place. We'll definitely put that on our marketing site and
Absolutely.
quote you for that. All right. I'm going to try my best to bring us back here, Brooke. So another thing you had mentioned to me before is when we're going to start documenting all these processes, right? You said use the best resource, but the least costly resource to start documenting. Yes. Is that right?
Absolutely. For any of the things that I'm doing on a project. And that's why I really need that scope piece. Because if you can have a scope that's well done, every time you do a project, we do the scope, we sell it, we do the project or whatever. When you have those wrap-up meetings at the end of every project, which you should be having, everybody, I don't care how small or how big that project is, every project should have a wrap-up meeting. You should talk about who did the various parts and pieces of the project, whether it's at the phase level or the ticket level. And did that person need to do this? Now, what's going to allow you to use a less expensive resource is if you have it well documented. If I have a project very well documented because we've scoped it, I have everything, I can pull in all my parts and pieces, I can get a lower level resource to do something that is maybe administrative. It's a tier 1 type thing where traditionally I've had to have my heavy lifter do it because we didn't have anything documented. So he or she had to do everything, all the parts of the project. But when you have those wrap up meetings, you're able to take that information and then you can use that and plug that back into your scope because that will help you sell better. Because if you know these 3 tickets right here, if they take 10 hours a pop, but if I know I can use a tier 1 guy that I can bill at $85 an hour, how much can you charge for this project? Where traditionally you've had to use your tier 3 guy that you bill at $1.65 an hour. I mean, just do the math. My project will be much more profitable if I know I have it documented and I can now kick these tickets right here to a lower engineer because I have it well documented. We've done this process over and over. It's vanilla bean for us now, and this person can be assigned to this task and go on. And that's what that information that you get and you're able to plug back into that scoping process is what resource do you need to be able to do this step, this phase, this ticket, this whatever.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, because that's what allows you to be competitive. I think, to your point too,
Heck
right?
yeah.
If your competition is spending a week to get the statement of work document out, and they're like, oh, I'm going to use this resource, they don't really have a documented process. Like, you have a competitive advantage because of that, because you got your statement of work back to the client in a day, as opposed to them, waiting on your competition for a week.
Because you're
Right?
waiting
It's
on
like,
the owner and he's on vacation and I've got to talk to him because I can't scope without him and he's coming back on Monday.
right. And that's what you've clearly lived that, Brooke. But,
Yep.
and that's what we see, like, to coin the term of, one of our clients, like, we want to present one voice. I don't necessarily want to present Bobby, the owner's voice, or Timmy, the tech's voice. I want to present our MSP's voice.
It's the voice of the company.
It's a voice of the company, right? And it's not like, if you don't have that documented and you don't have that kind of defined, every single scope is going to have a different look and flavor and language potentially every single time. Not only does the client not know what to expect between every scope, but your delivery team doesn't know what to expect. And then you just kind of lose your
I get
voice.
dumped a project and I'm just like, another one of these. Okay.
Yeah. And again, we've talked about this on other podcasts. Like, if that engineering team is working with you to define that process, they know what's coming. Like, oh, this
And
is
it also
something
sets up accountability because now I've given them a stake in the game. I've given these senior engineers, you guys now have a stake in this process. You're telling me that this is what it's going to take. So therefore, there's not going to be any more of this, oh my gosh, sales. We don't like sales. Okay, fine.
Right.
Sales sold another thing that we can't do. They sold another solution, another
Sales
project that we have no idea what we're doing. Oh yeah, sales will sell whatever. But then you dump it off to these engineers and they're like, what the heck? Versus bringing them in this process, there is no more what the heck. You boys and girls were in here in this project. You guys were in this process. You helped me come up with these numbers and these moving parts of what we were going to sell for this project. So now you're accountable for this. That takes a whole new level to your senior engineers. And I found that they really like it. They like being involved. Now they're going to be a little grumpy in the beginning because we have to document a lot of stuff. That's just how tier 3s are in general. They're kind of grumpy. But once we give them that level of accountability, they ratchet their game up as well. Because then that makes them think about, what do I really need to do for this particular solution? Do we have this documented? Should I be using this tool? Should I use this tool? This tool messed me over last time. This tool is more efficient. I can do it less. I can give it to this tier 2 guy because we already have an SOP for that. It makes a lot of people think differently, and that makes your scopes a lot tighter, and it makes your projects where you have the ability to produce them in a much more predictable manner. And again, like you were saying about the scopes being done in a day, it also, I think it makes the client, they don't question it. We all have those clients that want to go over something with a fine tooth comb.
Yeah.
But if I'm producing the same, you are aware when you ask me for something, I'm going to go do it. I'm going to deliver you this document. My VCIO, my account manager, they're going to give you a call. Y'all are going to hop on a Zoom. They're going to email it. You're going to go through it. Everybody understands it. It's the same thing that we did for y'all on a project a year ago, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody expects the same thing. There's no surprises. And that really, I think, develops that trust relationship that we have to have. Because I do not like MSPs being called outsourced. We are in it for the relationship with the client. We are not outsourced IT. We are your IT department. And in order to make them feel that, you've got to have that level of trust and that relationship. And one of the ways to do that is that predictability. They're aware of what it's going to look like. They know there's going to be a conversation with it. They know they're going to talk to their guy or girl. We're going to walk through it. They're going to answer my questions, and everybody's going to be happy at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, but this process is one gear, right, in the entire machine, but it is a extremely critical gear, I think. And if it's not oiled well, and if it's not operating with all the other gears, then it just completely goes off the rails. So, all right. So you dropped a bunch of nuggets of wisdom on us here, Brooke, and I'm sure you could continue
wisdom.
nuggets of wisdom, right? And I'm sure we could talk about this, for days, but what I like to do is offer up an opportunity for you to kind of lay out, like, what is one thing that an MSP or VAR could do today, right? Maybe in the vein of what we've been talking about that will help them.
The
Maybe
documentation is the key. That is how you start a process. If you don't have a process, you can't just invent a process, out of the blue. Now, you can. You can go get something from your website. You can go get something from my website, but you have to document what you already have so that you can plug it into the process. Because the process is it's a framework. It's a guideline of how anybody, I don't care what consultant or what firm you hire, here is the framework on how you need to do something. You already have things that you can plug into that framework, but the only way you're going to be able to make that work is if you start documenting what you already have. I don't care if it's perfect. I don't care if you write it on a piece of paper and hand it to some person in the office and have them type it up and put it in whatever your documentation platform is. You have to start writing it down, and then you're going to use that documentation, plug it into your process, and then every time you do it, you're going to make it a little bit better. Oh man, I can't believe I said that. That's wrong. I got to change these 3 things. But you didn't know that because you didn't have it written down. So you've got to document the process, and then you start plugging it in, and then you're going to improve it every single time. So even if you think that it sucks right now, write it down anyway. Let's get it in there. Let's get it in your platform.
That's a really good point, though. Like, don't wait for perfection, right? Like, start somewhere and iterate over time, because it will adjust, and you need to adjust with it, just like
it should
the
be
entire
constantly
business.
be changing. All of our, even here at Eureka Process, we are constantly improving, changing, modifying. Something changed. We learned something. We learned something from a client. A new person joined the company. Fresh set of eyes. You should never have a project, I don't care what kind it is, where you don't learn something from that project every single time that you do a project. Even if it's an O365 project that you're doing all the time, you have different people involved in the process. Somebody is going to have an idea or a thought that is going to make it a little bit better next time. And that's what the constant improvement is making sure that you're having that documentation. Just start somewhere. That's the thing, is you just please write it down. I don't care how bad you think it is. Just write it down for me, and then we can make it better from there.
All right, write it down. Well, Brooke, thank you so much for being here. And again, I know we could probably talk about this for days and days and days, and all sorts of different things.
I'll see you in Florida later this year, and we'll sit around for like hours talking about scoping, and people are crazy.
Yeah, they're like, those are some weird people. Well, so tell us, where can people find more about you, Eureka Process, if they want to learn more?
Pretty simple, eurekaprocess.com. That's our main website. We just relaunched our community last Friday. So it is now an entire learning management system. It is, we are stoked. It took the community team and marketing a ton of it. This was a year in the making, but now it is set up to where you can go to our community and it literally says, okay, I don't know anything, start here. You're going to get through that. Then you're going to go to this part. Then you're going to go to this part. So, and it has every single process that we have out there for anybody to go get. You can go get whatever you want. You can go through the entire learning management system, download every stinking process we got, and we will high five until you go do it. Make it happen.
I love the idea of giving, right? Like that's, something that we're trying to do as well, is like, how do we provide these templates? How do we provide pricing calculator? Like what can we do to provide? And that tends to go over really well.
That's the help. That is because people think that they have to invent it, reinvent the wheel from this. And I'm like, no, dude, go on our website, go to the community site, and you're going to see all these processes that are out there. You just download it, and then you go plug in your stuff and make it work. Here's the guideline. Here's a framework. Go do your thing. Let me know if you need help. Give me a call. I mean, we that's the gist of it is we want to help and we want to give back. And that's what Alan started the company on. All of the things that we had learned. How can we help other people not make the same mistakes? And how can we teach them all of the things that we've learned so they can take that and just like go forward at a really good pace and not hit the same speed bumps that we did.
Yep. No, I love it. So if you haven't, go check out eurekaprocess.com, check out the community. As well, if you're interested in other podcasts, the InScope podcast, you can go to scopestack.io/podcast to find more. And again, Brooke, thank you again for your time. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Good to see you too.
All right. See ya.